Hi, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Northern Kentucky Spotlight Podcast, powered by C Crew. I'm your host, Sarah Brookbank. Today on the podcast, we are joined by the team from School of Rock, Northern Kentucky. They share details about their programming and their upcoming Rock and Treat event happening on October 26th. And on our Talent Strategies Spotlight, Nancy Spivey is joined by Kelly Berry of 1 in 5. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, C Crew, Google and Amazon advertising experts, and Schneller Knockelman. There is still time to register for the Women's Initiative 2025 Regional Summit, powered by PNC, which is happening at NKU on Wednesday, November 5th. Hear from keynote speakers who will share their experiences, engage during interactive breakout sessions, gain actionable insights to elevate your leadership, and discover a network of women ready to collaborate and celebrate with you. You can learn more and register now at nkychamber.com/events. Now, let's go hear from our sponsors, meet our members of the week, and Nancy and I will be back with this week's guests.
Ranking on Google Search and Maps is easy to understand, but hard to do. It requires constant effort and attention, uploading new photos, responding to Google reviews, writing weekly posts, and checking suggested updates. Google listing optimization takes experience and time, and there are no shortcuts. C Crew gives your Google My Business account the steady, consistent attention it needs to be effective, optimizing, updating, and expanding critical content every single week. From local retail stores to large regional networks, C Crew generates content, establishes benchmarks, and creates dramatic, measurable increases in engagement. So what can C Crew do for your business? More calls, more clicks, more clients.
Congratulations to our members of the week. You can learn more about these businesses by following the Northern Kentucky Chamber on social media, where we highlight one of these businesses each day. Now, let's meet our members of the week. Mission Veterinary Medical Center's mission is to provide exceptional care for pets in a warm and welcoming environment. First Priority exists to empower students with the power of gospel. Camp Joy's adult leadership and team building program helps organizations build stronger, more connected teams through hands-on outdoor experiences that inspire growth and collaboration. New Perceptions works with developmentally delayed children and adults and has been operating in the community since 1952. 4EG is a rapidly growing, privately held company with bars located across Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati.
Good.
Hi, everyone. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Ashby Rosenberger of School of Rock, Northern Kentucky. Ashby, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It is exciting to have you. Jump right in. Tell us about School of Rock for people who do not know.
Sure. School of Rock is a performance-based music education program. We teach students as young as 4 all the way up to 104 is what we say. So youth and adult programs. And we really kind of turn the traditional music education program on its head a little bit. We are a song-first program, so the idea is that we get students in and playing songs as soon as possible, and then we kind of use those songs as an example of teaching kind of the underlying concepts of music theory.
Yeah, so a little bit different than like your standard, I'm in band, it's 5th grade, I'm learning how to play like the flute or the trumpet.
Yeah, exactly. There are some schools of thought that, say you've got to learn, all these things before you get to the fun stuff and start playing songs, but we kind of have the dessert first, if you will. So,
yeah, I really love that. Tell us a little bit more about how that kind of works, because it is a little bit different, that song-based style.
Sure.
And you're teaching learners of all ages. And you, I believe, are an instructor as well, correct?
I am not an instructor.
No, okay.
No, I hire professionals to do that. I am a music enthusiast. I am a fledgling musician. I'm not just the hair club for president. I am also a client. I have participated in our adult program, taken some lessons. And have made great strides in my playing. But no, I am not a professional instructor. I'm more business administration. But in terms of our programs, we start with, like I said, students as young as 4 years old. We have a Little Wings and a Rookies program. And those programs are really just kind of starting to foster an appreciation for music and teaching kind of the fundamentals of music theory. We prepare them for our Rock 101 program. And our Rock 101 program is our first kind of group class or band experience, if you will. It really doesn't require any experience at all for students to step right into that. But while that is a performance-based program, it's not necessarily performance-focused at that point, because we are focusing on some fundamentals Those students are working towards benchmarks, both on their individual instruments of study and as a group. So they're learning how to, break down a song as a group, and learning, how to have a successful rehearsal as a group. It's a lot like team sports with instruments.
Okay.
So once they've met all those benchmarks in the Rock 101 program, they can then graduate from that program and go into our youth performance program. And that is when we really kind of focus on the performance aspect of playing music as a group. And those groups will focus on a themed show for approximately 4 months. And they have a couple different opportunities at both the mid-season and the final point to play a real rock show in a real rock venue out in the community. It's a blast. So, like I said, not only is there a youth program, but there's an adult program as well. So adults can come in and have fun as well. It's not just the kids.
In addition to more of like the band performance thing, you guys have songwriting that's kicking off. Tell us a little bit about that.
We do, yeah. We're really excited about that. We offered it as a summer camp this year, which every year we do have several summer camps, which can be found on our website. So definitely check those out. But yeah, a songwriting program is in the mix too, which we're about to announce at our upcoming mid-season shows. So our students should be pretty excited about that. But yeah, that's going to be great. That's going to be a program that's going to offer some students the opportunity to kind of really get into the meat of songwriting and what that looks like, how to construct a song from the ground up, the collaborative process that goes into that, some general concepts behind songwriting and what makes a successful song. Like I said, when we did it as a camp, it was very, very successful. The kids had a great time. We were all, I think, pretty blown away by what they came up with. So yeah, really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And another thing you guys have coming up, you guys have your first ever Rock and Treat.
Yes. So that's going to be a cool community-focused event that we have coming up on Sunday, October 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to have a bunch of fun games and activities going on that day. We'll be giving tours of the school for people that haven't come to see us yet. We'll be scheduling free trial lessons. There will be a costume contest with prizes awarded, so please come down in costume. We have partnered with some local businesses. They're going to be there as well, also participating in the fun. So yeah, come check us out. Great opportunity to see our school and get more information about what we do.
Yeah, I love that. You also mentioned you mentioned some businesses are already going to be participating, but you guys sent us a little message that you're still looking for businesses to participate.
We are, yes. So if you are interested, please give us a call, 859-999-ROCK, 7625. Yeah, we are absolutely looking for additional businesses to participate. We're going to be having a room set up for trick or treating, so students will be able to go around, or people coming in to check out the school will be able to go around and get some free candy, and also have some local businesses get some great exposure and to team up to do that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys are in that perfect location right there on Dixie.
Right on
so
Dixie,
hopefully we get a lot of people coming in. And you mentioned that it's an opportunity for people to kind of come in and see everything that you guys are doing. But if people already have Halloween plans, or maybe that's not the right time, how can people come and visit you guys, get a little bit more information?
Sure. Just give us a call or stop by. You can also send us an email at nky@schoolofrock.com. Like I said, our phone number is 859-999-ROCK. But we offer free 30-minute trial lessons for new prospective students. So that gives students an opportunity to come in, get a tour of the school, sit down with an instructor one-on-one to kind of get a feel for what that process is like. It's also an assessment period for us as well to kind of see where a student is, so that we can determine the best starting point for them and set them up for success in our school. And then, like I said, we give you a tour and we can answer any questions about the program, because we do have, multiple programs for different ages and different skill levels. And so, we'll kind of, let you know what's going to be best for you for starting off, and answer any questions.
Yeah. So if I'm trying to pick up and learn how to play the guitar for the third time, maybe you guys will have the program that's right for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the performance-based aspect of it, we do have a lot of that. I'm glad you brought that up. We do have a lot of students that, have been, in lessons in various places. And, typically with, your traditional just one-on-one lessons, you end up kind of hitting a plateau.
Right.
But that performance-based aspect provides a kind of a practical application of what you're learning in the lesson room.
Yeah.
And it also provides this kind of team environment, this positive peer pressure, this motivating factor to really sit down and put the work in and get better. So you're going to progress, faster, and also it's a blast. It's a lot of fun sitting
Yeah.
and playing music with people. So.
Right. And I think as someone who was a band kid many, many moons ago, that performance-based aspect of it, it's like, you have a performance. There's something to look forward to. Like you said, you don't plateau. You do actually have to learn how to play the music.
Absolutely. The excuses to, sit down and practice melt away when you've got to show up for your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that, Ashby. It's been so great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, anything else you think people need to know about School of Rock?
No, I mean, really, the main thing is to just give us a call and come visit us. You know what I mean? We'll give you, like I said, we'll give you a tour, sit down for a free trial lesson, and any questions you might have, we'll get you answered then. But come check us out, and it's a blast.
All right, awesome, Ashby. Well, thanks again for your time today.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Nancy Spivey, Vice President of Talent Strategies with the Northern Kentucky Chamber. On today's podcast, I am with Kelly Berry. Kelly, you're with a group called 1 in 5. Explain to me that name and how you came about that name.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the name 1 in 5 is a statistic. It's the statistic when we were founded 15 years ago that 1 in 5 people, both adults and kids, every year experience mental illness. That was a pre-pandemic statistic. So unfortunately now it's a bit more common, but thus our name, that 1 in 5 statistic.
Okay, so, and I agree. I think the number certainly is higher, but I also see employers and others talking more openly about it. So can you kind of shed some light on what you're seeing as far as in the mental health space and specifically in business?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is becoming a much more common conversation in the workplace around for a number of reasons. I think one, the generational shift as the younger kind of Gen Z people are coming in and are much more communicative, for better, for worse, about feelings and mental health. It's a language they were taught in schools that us older generations really were not taught. And so it's sort of being asked of organizations as newer employees are coming on, but we also see it as a retention standpoint. What we know statistically is that half of all full-time employees have left a role for mental health reasons. And then we look at that generational breakdown, 68% of millennials, 81% of Gen Z. And then you look at forecasting data for Gen Alpha, which is, kids coming up way down the line. They're sort of expecting that mental health support in the workplace is the number one thing that generation is going to look for. And so we really see it. And obviously there's some bias in this, just in the work that we do, not just as a engagement, productivity, retention piece, but I think also an attraction and truly a workforce sustainability piece. There's a lot of different perceptions out there about how mental health impacts the workforce. And there's certainly a strong business case for the reality of that, but it sort of is whether or not you think it's a thing, and it is, it has impacts, and it impacts your bottom line, and it impacts the talent that you're able to attract and maintain.
To give us an idea of what are you hearing from employers that are trying to tackle mental health in the workplace? What are you hearing, the feedback?
So I think kind of the first trend that, as people are trying to tackle this is if they have the ability to kind of ramp up resources around mental health, we're certainly seeing that, whether that is an EAP, employee assistance program, telehealth providers around mental health. I've had a lot of conversations with some organizational leaders about possibly, finding ways to provide kind of free coverage of mental health, which is fantastic, and certainly not all organizations can afford to do things like that. But even things like the wellness apps like Calm and Headspace and things like that. What we do know about all of these resources that we're ramping up is that statistically, a big chunk of employees are not aware of those resources. And whether or not they feel comfortable, we'll say, accessing them is another thing. And so Another kind of trend or conversation that's coming up a lot more is this idea of psychological safety, which is really typically in the workforce, it's the idea that someone can express concern or express anything, an idea, without fear of retribution. And so with mental health, that oftentimes looks like I can speak up and sort of express what's going on, how I'm feeling, what I'm struggling with, without fear of stigma or shame or judgment, or that it's going to negatively impact my career. And so what we know about those resources and kind of combining that psychological safety is that a huge piece of that is how you're communicating those resources. Kind of a best practice there is to talk about them the same way that you would about any other benefits that you offer, your dental benefits, your PTO, that it's a piece of those things. And then also kind of adding on that, in the work that we do, we talk a lot about help-seeking behaviors, meaning it's not enough to simply be aware that we or someone else is struggling. We really want to empower people to tap into support and resources. Statistically, it takes about 11 years on average for someone experiencing mental illness to receive support and treatment. And so we're really trying to get people into getting support so that they're thriving the way that we know that they're able to with those treatment and resources.
And, we have about 1,750 members of our chamber, and, a vast majority of those are small employers. And I love how you said this isn't just for the larger employers. So
No.
Are you seeing any best practice examples on how do I even just get started with the conversation?
Sure. I think a number of things. One, this is my super nerdy public health background. We go to the research. But across the board, research really shows if you want to see the greatest impact on your culture and support in the workplace around mental health, you target your people leaders. Mm-hmm. And that, what that title is depends on the industry that you're in. But if someone is managing a team of people or a person, giving them a little bit of mental health literacy or essentially just a basic education around, okay, what is mental health? Mm-hmm. Something that we all experience. It's a universal human experience, just like our physical health. What are signs that someone may be struggling? We also find that it's helpful to give people some context around some of where that can come from, if it is mental illness, the kind of genetic components and some other pieces with that. And sometimes it's just stress, right? I mean, it's just a human experience, but recognizing what that looks like and then how to support individuals without becoming a therapist or even trying to fix it. And sure. I think that's sort of the hardest part, where especially if you've got a great leader who really cares about their team and they're noticing that they're struggling, a gut reaction is like, oh, I just want to make it better.
Yeah, you want to help. Sure.
Yeah. And so especially I think people who are coming at it from a business standpoint, we jump into strategy mode around okay, here's how we're going to fix it. This is what I think you should do. Or maybe even I've been there before. Here's what I did that helped me, or here's what a friend of mine did and it was really helpful for them. But when we're supporting someone's mental health, what's really most important is that they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to be stigmatized for it. And so what we see as a best practice is really using those people leaders more as connectors. We always kind of use in our trainings, we'll oftentimes talk about think of yourself as a crossing guard. You're partnering kind of hand in hand and walking with people to get connected to support. And that I think requires, or it can be helpful if you have a little bit of training around what that can look like. And we use a lot of coaching strategies for that, kind of motivational interviewing, those open-ended questions, affirmations, reflective listening, stuff like that. But giving people some ideas around, okay, if we're hearing or if we're seeing these things and those flags are going up of saying like, I feel like something is off.
Mhm.
Even if it isn't, sometimes off can be that really energetic employee is coming in, withdrawing from people, not talking to people, or snapping at people. That fight or flight response can be a lot of different things. And rather than being reactive to that, we want people to sort of pause, be intentional, be curious. We use the phrase, we have a lot of phrases we use, but we use the phrase, in a world full of thermometers, be a thermostat.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And a thermometer reads and reflects.
We're doing your check. We're checking it. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's coming in hot and spicy, if you will, you're giving it back to them. Like, that's not going to go really well. That's certainly not going to promote mental health within your organization. But pausing, regulating yourself, regulating kind of that space, and moving through it with intention can have really wonderful impacts, and really also continue to create that psychological safety. Hey, I've noticed these things. I'm wondering if you're okay. I'm wondering if we can connect you with some stuff.
Well, one of the best things that I think I heard come out of you is, we're all dealing with mental health, right? Every single person. So, it's not like isolating. It's something that we want to make sure we're attentive to. We're making sure we understand and are compassionate about it, but not, there's a lot to that, and it doesn't shut off when you enter the workplace. So
absolutely
thank you.
Not. No.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think sometimes the word mental health itself turns people off.
Yeah.
And I've done train. So we do we work with a lot of different industries, but one of the industries we do a lot of work with is the construction industry, because they have high suicide rates kind of statistically within that entity. But I was doing a training, and I had someone afterwards who came up and was like, I don't really relate to that whole mental health thing, but definitely the stress thing, where it's like, I don't really care what you call it.
Right.
But it is a human experience. We all, and we're wired that way, and it's not a bad thing, but we want to make sure, I think, regardless of the industry that someone is in, what I have found with most adults is we sometimes have these seasons that I don't know if you've ever gotten in your car at the end of a work day, driven home, and like not remembered how you got there. Yes, where you're sort of just in autopilot.
Right.
And many of us go through seasons of life like that, where we're just like, going through the motions, just sometimes in survival mode, but sometimes just autopilot, right? Mm-hmm. And you end up in a place with your mental health and sometimes physical health that you just didn't imagine you would be, not because you were intentionally choosing that, but because you had other stuff on the radar and we're not checking in with ourselves. And so, whether that looks like, I think a piece of that is normalizing conversations around kind of how are you really doing?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, hey, how are you? I'm fine. But being intentional there. And I think that's sort of another trend that we're seeing, not just in workplaces, but societally, is this kind of trends around isolation. We have a hard time connecting with each other. And certainly is, it's not a new thing generationally. As each generation comes in, each one is like, I don't know, a pariah or something. I can't believe that they're so entitled, they're so whatever.
Oh, sure.
Every single one. And so it becomes kind of this disconnect. And we've seen, even larger scale, 2 years ago, there was a U.S. Surgeon General report around the epidemic of isolation in our country. And they found that it was more impactful of our physical health isolation than smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And so when we talk about what are the things for our mental health we can put in place that are protective, one of the single most protective factors are our social connections. And like it or not, we spend a lot of time, a lot of life at work.
Mm-hmm.
And so having spaces where we feel seen and we feel like people care about us as human beings is really, really powerful.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've shared a lot of great insights. I'm very happy to talk about you as a resource for our chamber members, and you are a chamber member, and we really appreciate you. So thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. I do want to give a quick plug because we had a lot of members in the past who were kind of asking about resources from us, and especially some of those more smaller organizations where we do a lot of trainings, not just for the whole company, but just for leaders specifically. And, you know, they're like, well, we only have 2 or 3 people leaders, so it doesn't really make sense for us to do a whole training. But because of that, we've decided to kind of offer these one-off events where anyone is welcome to join, and they're more specifically geared towards organizational leaders and creating that culture and understanding around mental health. So want to make sure I'm plugging those.
Great.
Because we've gotten really exceptional results and feedback from those as a result around empowering people to check in on others and feeling comfortable doing that, because that's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, so I want to make sure that people are aware that we're offering those just as another resource to help support people.
And they can find information on your website, which we'll post about on our website, on our podcast.
That is correct.
Yep.
oneinfive.org.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nancy.
Have a good day.
You too.
Chris Knockelman with Schneller Knockelman Plumbing, Heating, and Air. It's spring now, but before you know it, our ACs are working overtime.
Dave, it's going to be warm soon.
Right now is a good time to get the AC serviced, right?
You can get your AC tuned up for only $59.
So get your $59 tune-up at
skpha.com. skpha. So if your plumbing and mechanical systems give you trouble, just remember our name, Schneller Knockelman.
Northern Kentucky needs tailored solutions to address our housing shortage. Home for All, Northern Kentucky Housing Strategies, explores how we can retain young adults, help older residents downsize or age in place, and ensure new neighbors have housing options that fit their lives. Dive into the report at housingNKY.org. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed learning more about School of Rock Northern Kentucky and about 1 in 5. Like I said, there's still time to register for the Women's Initiative Regional Summit happening on Wednesday, November 5th. You can learn more and register for this great event at nkychamber.com/events. And thank you to our podcast sponsors, C. Crew, Google and Amazon advertising experts, and Schneller Knockelman. Finally, if you're a member who would like to be featured on the podcast, or if you're interested in joining the Northern Kentucky Chamber, please reach out to Lynn Ablin. And if you're a member who would like to share your workforce strategies and resources on our Talent Strategies Spotlight, please reach out to Nancy Spivey. You can find their contact information on the screen if you're a viewer, and our listeners can find that at nkychamber.com at our staff directory. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next week.